So here's the thing. What I want to share with you is our vision on what is a cradle-to-cradle circular economy, not just a circular economy, and what we feel this is the right moment for a good idea to be implemented in a larger scale. So we are all suffering from this strange situation. We've been in lockdown, depending on the region and the place. In our case, it's for more than 2 months now already. And one of the first things we figured out very quickly in this in the process, in this new situation, was that well, nature was recovering extremely quickly. So that brings us to this whole idea that who is the alien to the planet? The alien to the planet is human beings or is somebody else? So apparently the ones we have a problem of balance and harmony with the planet is humankind. This example of Venice, I think there are a lot of examples all over the world, from clean air to clean waters and empty cities. I mean, well, the human beings, they are all over the planet. We are the dominant species, and we have a big responsibility on what's going on here. Nature doesn't really care about what we're doing. I mean, they are just taking the opportunity of thriving where we are not making things wrong. So, having said that, I don't believe in the fact that we have a population problem. I don't believe in the thinking that we cannot celebrate the fact that we are here. I think we should celebrate the fact that we're here, and we should share it with other species. I think the biggest problem we have is that we've been evolving very quickly due mainly to cheap energy and technology breakdowns in the latest, in the last 100 years. And this has been taking our civilization to a point of, to a tipping point. So the same model that has been brought us to this situation, is it still valid for the future? And I think that the example of Venice and many other examples tell us strongly that apparently this is not a valid model for all species, all time, all over the world. So we need a new system. One of the systems that is being proposed in recent times is a circular economy system as opposed to a linear economy system. So the first thing I have to say is that circular economy is not a linear economy in a circle. I'm saying that because there are a lot of misleading concepts about circular economy that I will try to clarify throughout this presentation. So this is our system, generally speaking. Of course, there are many different situations, but this is industrialized linear economy. And I say industrialized because what we're going to talk now is about an economy that is being industrialized and is being largely driven by humans, which is not the only economy in the planet, by the way, but this is the human economy. So we're coming from a situation where we have a linear system where we're taking material sources, energy sources, water sources, we turn them into products and services, and then in the end of the day, because we don't have any other plan, we are ending up all this value into a waste stream, whether this is a solid waste in landfills, liquids in water streams, or emissions as of gassing to the atmosphere. So the purpose of developing a new economy system, which has to be regenerative by design, has to be more inclusive, has to be better distributed, and has to be restorative, is because we are tapping the limits of nature and we are tapping the limits of our own existence. That's why a less bad economy is not a circular economy. That's why it's not only about end of life of products. It's not just about whether we can maximize the use of resources. This is part of the equation, of course, but there is more than that. It's about how we can drive a positive impact on our society first and on the planet. So we need to retake, remake, and restore things, because this is the only way we can design and create abundance. And a linear economy, a circular economy as opposed to a linear economy, is about creating abundance, not just less bad solutions. So this is my very first point. So how we can make a new economy healthier, not just less unsafety. And we are in this situation where apparently everything that we have been doing goes against us. And there are some of the fundamentals of our civilization that they are being questioned. But I think these questions we should ask to ourselves are very simple. It's how we can secure that we can build a healthy and safe economy and society alike. So the cradle-to-cradle approach is very much, cradle-to-cradle is a vision, is a philosophy, is a way of thinking, is a way of looking at things. It's not just a certification. Certification is the consequence. It's not the start of the process. So from a cradle-to-cradle point of view, we say we need to understand what are the building blocks. We need to create this new economy, and the building blocks in nature are molecules. The building blocks are physics turned into chemistry, and in the end turned into biology. And this is what we humans, we try to replicate. We should try to do things in a similar way as nature does. We cannot copy nature because we don't have enough time to do that. But we should understand the principles and how we can turn principles into criteria and criteria into methodologies. So this is why we said we start from the molecule to the product to systems, subsystems, and then, the whole planet. So it's a bottom-up type of approach. And how we can develop the journey is as important as the final result of the journey. So our cradle-to-cradle circular economy starts with safe and then circular, not the other way around. There's a lot of controversy now whether circular economy is just trying to propose a more effective or more efficient way of recycling things. If this is the only thing we can do, this is not a paradigm shift. This is not going to change anything in the long run. So the first thing we have to understand is that if we want to make a safer and healthier environment, we need to start with having and using healthy and safe building blocks. Whether these building blocks are materials or energy or water, the same principle applies. Cradle-to-cradle is based on three main principles inspired by nature. So everything starts with designing out waste. So waste has no place in a circular economy. Then you need something to run this economy. And you need water and you need energy to run the economy. So you need clean water, clean and renewable water, and energy. And then you need to celebrate diversity, not only biological, but also conceptual and cultural biology. So circular economy, cradle-to-cradle circular economy should be suitable for everyone, everywhere, every time. Otherwise, that means that the model is not good enough. So just going to tell you quickly a very short story about what happened to me 15 years ago. Before co-founding EIG, I was playing the entrepreneur role. I was producing premium olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, little property I have in Catalonia. So I learned some lessons from the Italians, and I said, okay, I want to make something really good. I want to be transparent, and I want to have full traceability in what I'm doing. And I'm using this olive oil thing because a lot of things about stories about olive oil is about transparency and traceability. Same thing that applies for the fashion industry right now, the built environment, you name it. So long story short, we were developing our business. We were having a very good first season. Second season, after producing, was a small scale production, something like 5,000 bottles. We were doing what we call a sensorial testing, because the quality of extra virgin olive oil is also based on the sensorial test. And all of a sudden, we found out that it was not in compliance. I mean, the flavor and the sensory test of the product was not as good as expected, and we could not commercialize the product. And then we started to find out, I mean, what was wrong in the process, because we had a very strict traceability system. We're tracking every single olive from every single tree. We're using GPS systems. That was already back in the early 2000s. And but I mean, typically we say the best oil is fresh oil, just hand-picked or picked straight from the tree and crushed in the very first hours. So, well, we couldn't find out what was wrong. It was highly depressing. And yeah, and we said, okay, I mean, there should be a gap somewhere. 1 year later, I got one of my friends, I'm a biologist by education, who's a microbiologist, and I took him to be our production manager and to go to the mill and monitor things. And all of a sudden, we found out what happened. What happened is that we were using in a certain batch olives that were picked during a rainy day on Friday, and then the mill was shut down during the weekend. There was a remain of olives in the mill, in the conveyor belt, that got fermented during the weekend. These very tiny chemical substances out of fermentation were spoiling 5,000 bottles. Because this is how things happen in a premium quality food product. So the main conclusion here is that traceability is not good enough. We need both traceability and transparency. And transparency is about asking the right questions. We should have asked our middleman the right questions in the first place. And we just learned it in the hard way. Because of that, we had to shut down the company. So there are consequences when you don't put traceability and transparency in the first place. Of course, we were a very small company and we were very highly vulnerable. This doesn't need to happen to big companies, but this is my personal example. So on this safe and circular journey, what we want to do, quoting my friend Bill McDonald, is we want to circulate goods, not bads. So by circulating goods, we mean that we need to circulate those products, they have value. And value depends on two main things: identification and value per se, and offer and demand. So what we do on a cradle-to-cradle process, well, this is part of a certification or not, it doesn't matter. We always start with trying to find out what is in the product, what is in the process, and trying to get as relevant information as possible from producers. And this is one of the most challenging things, because we live in a society that sharing information unless there is a strong business incentive. It's not spontaneously being done by most of the people, you know. So asking the right questions and building the right incentives is the very first step. So cradle to cradle, when it turns principles and criteria into methodology, is when we have, for instance, this cradle to cradle certified program, which is a multi-attribute, multi-industrial, multi-stakeholder approach at product and process level. It's not perfect. Obviously, it's not the only one. It's probably the only one with a proven record on addressing circularity, in the sense that things like material health and material reutilization are taking first place from the very beginning. But we're also looking at other aspects, like the way we use energy quality and how we treat people. This social impact used to be one of the weakest points of the cradle to cradle certification, because we were basically adopting the rules from others. But well, since we are developing the next version of the certification, this is going to be strengthened. Same thing applies for all the other attributes. Back to the fundamentals of the processes, we start by identifying what is in a product, whether this is a biological or technical nutrient. So whether this can be turned back to the biosphere safely, or this should go back to the technosphere, so to the industry, also safely. And then we assess them against all these 5 categories. And once we have the result of the assessment, and if there's some optimization needed, we run the optimization. Otherwise, you get your score, and then we define an optimization pathway. This is why Cradle to Cradle is by no means a certification scheme only. If you just want to do that because you want to put a stamp on a product, it's not really worthwhile to do it, because it's not cheap, and the return of investment is probably not there. The very reason of having a cradle to cradle approach is when you really understand that you can integrate this process into your way of thinking and doing things. That's the biggest takeaway of the process. Learning the lessons by doing. So our little story about a circular economy, and this is our story, okay? There are similar maps all over. So Cradle to Cradle has firstly coined by Walter Staffen back in 1976. Bill McDonald and Michael Branger, which are the real co-founders and co-developers of the whole concept, the concept itself. They were reading the book Cradle to Cradle, Remaking the Way We Make Things, and it's remaking. As you can see, it's not about rethinking or rephrasing, it's remaking. Very practical approach. I met with Bill McDonald for the first time in Barcelona in 2004, and we started to work together in 2005. China was the first economy developing a blueprint for circular economy, so-called the design of the circular economy, already back in 2005. Chinese are becoming popular for being very creative lately. Then EAG was co-founded by me and 3 other fellows in 2005, and we got really active by the end of 2006, early 2007. Then we have this, one of the first ambassadors, the first groups promoting Cradle to Cradle, which was the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. That, of course, they were using a lot of the material we had been generated for years. They still do. And they have been a strong push for the scalability of the circular economy concept. And still they are. We joined forces. We had a problem because we were having a lack of implementation. So we joined forces with our partners of Grupo Construcción, which is a general contractor. I mean, is a company that was born on the built environment, that is now moving into offering circular services all over the built environment and the real estate market. And then we have, since then, well, we established our first roadmap, and they will come to it later on in 2013. And then this package in Europe for circular economy, and well, all the latest news and initiatives, especially in Europe, but all over the world, about how to facilitate the implementation of circular economy, also as a way of making a more sustainable agenda and having a more positive agenda for everything we're doing and we're thinking of. So it's not just the circular economy per se, but it's also the circular economy as an enabler for enhancing biodiversity, tackling climate change, and and developing in the end developing a more safer and healthier landscape. So I said before that we wanted, I think, a circular economy, a cradle-to-cradle circular economy is about designing for abundance. It's not just about doing less bad, it's about doing good. It's about having a positive impact, not just a less negative impact. And we need to design these within the boundaries. We have some ecological boundaries, ecological ceilings, and we have some social foundation. This is from Kate Rayworth. So I like this graph because it's contextualizing well, the landscape for thriving in a circular economy without forgetting anyone. Some of the criticism sometimes to the cradle is that it's too much engineering focus, and which is, I don't agree, but I could understand why some people think that. Well, I think that integrating cradle-to-cradle circular economy, and with this view, we are putting everything together, so we don't leave anyone behind. And a circular cradle-to-cradle circular economy needs also a paradigm shift of the way we're dealing with carbon emissions, and climate change. So I'm not going to get very much into detail, but this is a very nice piece I'm borrowing from Bill McDonald. He was publishing this in Nature magazine way back in 2016. And I think the very strong idea is that carbon is not the enemy, and we need a new language for that. We also need a new language for circular economy, but definitely we need a new language for carbon. Why is that? Because humans, we are 18% weight basis carbon. Without carbon, there's no life on the planet. I think one of the things that cradle-to-cradle does pretty well is rephrasing things and changing the context. So what we want is to have working carbon, having a positive impact in the livings, durable carbon having regenerative impact on what we can produce, either out of bio-based materials or non-bio-based materials. Those two working carbon economy should be run by clean and renewable energy. And what we don't want, to make long story short, is anything that basically reduces the value of carbon in the product, and as either as a fuel or as a material. So what we don't want is to have fugitive carbon emissions into the atmosphere, or carbon leakage into the environment, whether this is plastic or this is anything related to burning carbon and carbon polymers. In the end of the day, we are just reducing our positive carbon footprint. So in order to change the language, we typically start by defining what our values are. So we start by defining intentions, then principles, goals, milestones, strategies, tactics, and in the end, metrics. And I'm saying that, I'm emphasizing that because this is not how our economy works. Most of the time, we start with metrics. That's why we don't have the capacity to make things happen in the mid-long term, because this is too much of a short-term type of strategy. Having said that, one of the biggest challenges for the sustainability world is how to make sustainability return of investment short-term as well. And this is going to be the second part of my presentation I'm getting into now. So we are working in different industries: textiles, fashion, built environment, a little bit of packaging. And basically, we apply the same principles and the same criteria to everything we do. Well, this is a design project, or is an implementation project, or is a resource management project after the first use of the product. Number of positive initiatives in the fashion industry. They are not the only ones. I just mentioned a few of them. Fashion Positive from the Cradle to Cradle Product Innovation Institute, Fashion for Good that has been promoted by the CNA Foundation. And this building is our first building project that has been executed. It's next to the airport of Barcelona. Once you are allowed to travel, you can probably have a look at it. And well, this is a project we took and we basically transformed into what we call a circular building based on a methodology we have developed for that we call Lean to Cradle, together with our colleagues of Constructia. So the key thing about circular economy is implementation. This is not a theoretical approach. If the only thing we can do about a circular economy is talking, I mean, it doesn't worth the effort. So I think implementation is the name of the game. I like this quote. I mean, why we do it? If not us, who? If not now, when? And this is something that seems to be, redundant in time. And yeah, I think it was Kennedy who was asking himself, why are we taking a man to the moon? And I like the idea of basically because it's hard. If it would be that easy, it will be not us, not now, not here. So why we do that is because it's hard. Because we think that we want to contribute to the change in a positive way, but of course we cannot do it alone. We don't have the kind of leadership they had in the 60s, and the world is much more complex than that. So we want to do it. I mean, we accept the challenge to make it happen, but we need a lot of partners for the journey. So this is what we started with our colleagues of Constructia. That was the first roadmap we were defining for how to implement sound circular economy strategy in the company. It is not easy. It is not done overnight. There are a lot of conflicts. We make mistakes, but we decided we wanted to do it because it's hard. And funny enough, just a few days ago, I was checking where we were in this roadmap. And well, all of a sudden, it turns that we are not that far away, in the sense that, for instance, 25% of all the projects we executed last year were already Lean to Cradle projects, more or less. And we have a goal for this year to be 40% of all our production, which is in 8 years' time, considering that this was a very conventional company, and we were just starting everything from scratch, including the fact that there were very little or very few suppliers or installing companies. It's not that bad. I think it's quite a good achievement, but of course we are not there yet. We're not where we want to be. So that's what Cradle to Cradle is about. It is about defining the goals and defining the way to achieve them. So it's a roadmap. So, well, last year we found out that some of the metrics we're typically using for that, either they are not comprehensive to some of our clients, we don't use the same language they are used to, or they don't have enough value. They have a lot of value for us, but probably they don't have the same value for a real estate developer. So we started, and this is half Spanish, half English, but we started by defining circularity metrics and how we can link this to the quality of the products we have in the space, how many products we are identifying, and what is the breakdown in terms of product health and safety. Everybody's talking about health in offices and buildings now. We start from the building blocks. It's not just about, using cleaning agents or ozone or things like that, which, by the way, they have other detrimental impacts. It's about, how you are embedding these values into your project from day one or even day zero. So this is about dealing with complexity. And you need to frame complexity into values, and we use money every now and then, and we use statistics to see what is the value for the society. This is methodology we have just developed. This is for the built environment, but this could be replicated to other industries as well. For instance, fashion. What is the value of what you are delivering? The value to society and the value to the business. Because as I said before, one of the biggest challenges for sustainability in general terms is that, the business world does not see the value of sustainability in the short term. Even companies like, they have been very successful in the sustainability field. Most of them, what they do is either they only do a part of their products, so a portion of the products, or they start with brand new products because there's not a reference value. Some markets like the real estate doesn't really work like that because you have a lot of assets, existing assets in the landscape already. So what we're trying to do is how we can increase the value for all the stakeholders, for the developer, for the general contractor, for the final user, and for the society. Value to business, things like credibility, brand reputation, productivity, which is a very big thing. This is based on perception productivity score. This is money in the end of the day, and also the value, the residual value of the building itself, and what is the cost of using this material against this other material in the same place. For instance, here is a figure that the societal cost of using conventional materials was 0.27 euros. By using cradle-to-cradle products, mostly cradle-to-cradle certified or cradle-to-cradle compliant products, we were performing 33% better. So we were reducing the societal cost. Our aim is not to reduce the societal cost, it's to have a positive impact to that. So this should be a positive in the years to come. But we are still learning the lessons. So this is a pretty good result at this point of time already. And we need to gain scalability. We are developing strategy together with existing and new partners. And on our journey, we have met with a lot of people. One of the people we've met recently is a French company called Upcycler, that they are developing a tool and a software to help cradle-to-cradle circular economy implementation in the real world. A lot of people say that circular economy is about participation. I said it's about participation when it's well incentivized. People don't get circular just by fun. It's not a hobby. It's not an additional gadget. This is people that want to make a living with that. So we need to incentivize all the different stakeholders in the process. So this company has done an excellent job on building not only awareness, but a system that can be scaled up for all kinds of industries. They have started with a built environment, but we can use the same tool with other industries as well. And we are partnering with them because we are speaking the same language. We understand the impact of a product in the broader extent. So the safe then circular thing, we need to put it in numbers. And we need to put it not only on the created value, but also on the retained value. of everything we deal with. So, usually saying that this is our reality is becoming more complex by the day. In the last 4 months, it's become extremely complex. So, as I said before, we cannot do it alone. So, if we want to develop new ecosystems and new human ecosystems, because this is a human ecosystem, this is not a, this is not a natural ecosystem. We're talking about a business ecosystem. We need to do it in a different way. We need to do it in a more inclusive, more transparent, more traceable, a more business-oriented way. Otherwise, it's not going to work. There are a lot of people talking circular economy. There are beautiful diagrams, beautiful graphs. There's a lot of reporting about circular economy, very big numbers. There's a lot of blah, blah, blah. We need implementation. We need facts. We need ways of anticipating and incentivizing different attributes. Attitude is what is driving business. So, and we need to connect the dots. This is a way of connecting the dots on our resource management strategy. How we start by the demand side of the market into the offer side and not the other way around. One of the biggest problems we are facing, for instance, in Asia with fashion brands is that a lot of things starts from the offer side, not the demand side. And then they are building offer stocks, and then they have all these problems, which are very unfortunate about some brands not fulfilling their commitments and things like that. I think the whole thing is because there is no flexibility in the system. So we need to enhance the flexibility of this industrial cradle to cradle circular economy. And we need, as I said before, we need a lot of partners. These are some of our partners. I said Bill, KPMG, we're doing an excellent job on trying to frame all this value in monetary terms. ETech is a foundation, Cradle Foundation, with whom we have been working on this material passport approach. Upcycler is this company, French company I just mentioned to you, which is our technological partner. And Politecnico di Milano, we are looking into developing metrics for circular carbon strategy. And last but not least, since we need to get data and projects in a certain way, we want to share our knowledge and we want to share our methodology with other people in order to, build the necessary synergies to speed up things and to catalyze the change. So this is the end of my webinar. And I want to, this is our office. It's empty, as you can see. It's plenty of green. And this is an office based on our principles, turned into criteria. And this is a space to share. I don't understand those people that talk about distancing in offices and buildings. You know, if you cannot share space with people, what the hell do you need an office for? I mean, you can't work from home. I think this is asking the right questions is more important than ever before, I think, because we need to be more resilient and we need to shorten the reaction times. Funny enough, the fastest are those we normally typically think they are the slowest. The first guy we got in the new office when we executed was this big snail. He was just walking through the green wall. So one of the lessons to be learned is that nature is always ready, is always prepared. And I think we should expect the unexpected. We should do a build back better also for the business. I think the new normal is not going to be the same. I hope not. But yeah, I'm very positive in the sense that we're probably tapping the limits faster than expected. So we are just crushing 2 generations now. And yeah, we only have a chance to make it better. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Stay safe, stay foolish, and stay hungry.